Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, representing Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness. Today this is going to be a serious tone. I'm making this video and recording this as someone who just got some really bad news. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but bad news that affects me on multiple levels. And I'm having to deal with stuff already this morning. Like I woke up to pretty much a 3 a.m. emergency text message. So, this is the stuff that reminds me of, how do I put it, that the barbell gets us strong. It builds resilience. And this is something that I think that we have to talk about and understand. That, strength goes beyond just the physical. And when we spend time building our strength under the barbell, in my case, you guys are watching, 500-pound squat there at the age of 48. I've personally been through a lot of struggles in my life. I'm a child abuse survivor. I've been very vocal about that. Something I've pushed adamantly is getting abuse survivors under a barbell. I've dealt with some physical illness. I pretty much couldn't walk, was almost bedbound for 10 months straight in my early 30s, even after years of training. I had already squatted and deadlifted over 600 when younger. Went through all those things and had to rebuild myself from nothing. And I think people who follow my journey remember that, like, oh wow, you rebuilt from just being a fat guy having to hobble with a cane to where you are now. I've had to overcome a lot of stuff, and the thing that I've learned, my lessons under the barbell, it builds resilience, right? This stuff builds resilience. I was chatting yesterday with a coach friend of mine named David, who he hit me up for some business advice because everyone's dealing with this economy in the coaching world. And we talked, and he's like, dude, why do you downplay what you do? It was kind of funny. He's like, you're over here, you're 48, you said a 500 squat, I watched you bench 350. You get out and run. You're just like, just go run barefoot. You just do 5K several times a week with no shoes. You push a sled barefoot down the street. He goes, no, that's not normal. And I'm like, but it is normal. That's my normal, And he's just laughing about it. He goes, dude, that's hardcore, and you don't give enough credit. But I'm like, because it's not a big deal. It really isn't a big deal. I mean, because it's become my normal, because we just build toughness, we build resilience. And when you train, and you really and truly take this serious, and you spend years and years under the barbell, it builds a different toughness that can carry over into other things, because, and for me, that's just part of my life. I've learned to just use that. And it doesn't mean that it makes us this, we're awful, bad. It's not like that. I'm not trying to say that it's like that, because it happens for women and other stuff too. It's about just developing toughness, okay? Because what is strength training? Yes, it makes you physically strong. That physical can carry over into certain attributes that'll affect neurotransmitters and everything, sure. But it also goes beyond that. It's the act of voluntary hardship, right? So, I mean, even if I go run barefoot, I push a sled barefoot, we do a heavy lifting, what are we doing with all this? What are we doing with all of it? Voluntary hardship, okay? We are subjecting ourselves to voluntary hardship for the purpose of self-improvement, okay? For those of us who've been abuse survivors, you have to understand how powerful that is, okay? Because when you've been through that, or anyone who has any type of PTSD, and I don't care whether it's abuse survivors, sexual assault survivors, war, okay, the effects on the brain are the same, okay? Pain becomes your normal. Like hardship is your normal. Being uncomfortable becomes your normal. Like we're used to that. But then if you've been through those things and you learn to channel that, it's like, I'm already going to be uncomfortable. I'm already going to have hardship. Let's then use voluntary hardship, to which we are in control of. Okay? That's a whole different ballpark, because now you're in control of that hardship. I get to pick that I go deadlift. I get to pick that I've run down, on the pavement barefoot for 5 miles. Okay, you're in control of that hardship, and you're subjectively loading it for the purpose of saying, I am building a better body. I am building strength. I am improving myself. Okay. You need to understand the resilience that this builds to other things. It gives you strength when everything goes wrong. It gives you strength when your best friend dies or your mother dies. Something happens. Okay, your car gets stolen. You get fired from your job. Your child has a overdose from drugs. Okay, hardships. Right? These are real struggles. When you have subjected yourself to repeated strength training, voluntary hardship, to get stronger physically, it builds a stronger mental and emotional resilience. It puts you in the situation to where you know how to manage stress, you know how to manage that adrenaline, because you've learned to train. You've learned to control it in a controlled environment. So when these real life problems hit you, because they're going to hit you, guys. They're going to hit you. When these things hit you, it keeps you from falling apart. Okay? It keeps you from falling apart because you're like, I know how to deal with stress. I know how to deal with trauma. I know how to deal with hardship. Right? I know how to handle these things. Right? I know how to handle these things. And that's the idea. So when we have subjected ourselves to this, we know how to do it, right? Because we've trained for it. And people don't realize that. Strength training is training for the real world. It really is. Okay? It's training for the real world. Because we have, again, stepped back and said, I'm going to subject myself repeatedly to a voluntary hardship that I can control. I'm going to learn how to manage my stress from it. I'm going to learn how to manage my emotions from it. Because once you've been doing it a while, it's no longer about that catharsis, right? Early on, a lot of times when we're training, it's a way to express our anger in a positive manner. You can get frustration, you can get anger, you can get stress out. You can get all those things out of your system. Okay? All right, it's a big part of it. All right, but eventually you reach a place of zen with it. You learn to reach a place of focus to where that psychological arousal comes down, and then it gets easy, okay? Because now it's a place of pure focus, pure control of your emotions. You are in control. There's no longer, I just got to let it go. No, we're no longer there. Is a peace with it. And I think that's something I have learned over the years with this too, with the heavy lifting. That peace it creates. Because people know, like, dude, you're super chill when you lift. Like, you're doing rep work of 500 on a deadlift. You're repping 315 on a bench. All controlled. It's a place of zen. It's a place of calm. It's a place of center. So now we're able to do things that most people consider impossible, extremely difficult. The average person, for you to come over and rep 500 on a deadlift would just chalk it up. No. Come on. For those of us in the hardcore lifting world, that's not a big deal. The average person, that's crazy. You're now doing things that most people would consider impossible or insanely difficult in a place of calm, in a place of control, in a place of focus, to where it's just not a big deal. That is learning to manage. When you've done that, you've learned to manage your adrenaline response. You learn to manage your emotional response to things. So when these big, real life things hit you, and they're just as psychological arousing, like in a major emergency event, is just as hard. It's going to have a similar nervous system and hormonal response to a max effort lift. But you've learned how to manage those things. You're like, okay, instead, let me approach it calmly, look at the situation. What do I need to do? And that's where the magic happens. This is where it carries over.